Welcome to the Spiritual Underground Podcast. This is Dan coming to you from the studios at DTM Enterprises, my wood shop in the backyard. Sitting here today on my big mahogany table. Have a special guest in today. Jesse's going to tell his story today. You'll hear a lot about that. I've known Jesse for the whole time I've been in, I'm pretty sure, really close. So this time around anyway, for the past 4 years. So that is cool. Let me get a couple of these commercials out of the way. Go out to spiritualunderground.org. There's a contact me page there that you can reach out, give me any feedback that you may have. You need help because of your struggling with something. I'm an open book there too. I will see what I can do to point you in the right direction. And also links to these podcasts and show notes and pictures of the folks that have been guests so you can put the face with the name. Christopher Cohn's book, 12-Step Spiritual Recovery, is now available on Amazon. We've been talking about it a little bit. We had the very first meeting the other night. Thursday night went great. Had 54 people at that meeting. So go out and check that out. And music. Generally, we've been having music by Darren, and Jesse has been played a role of, I guess, would you say producer?
Yep, producer. Assistant.
And have you actually played some of the instruments in it too?
Yeah.
On some of the on those songs we've been hearing? So that is real cool. But today he's brought his guitar with him, so we just recorded a song. I'll use it for the probably do another one here in a little bit, and we'll use it for today. So he gets complete and total musical credit. And he said the song was actually written by a friend of his.
Yep.
So he'll introduce that too when it's there. So way I always start this. Welcome to the podcast, by the way, Jesse.
Thank you.
Love you to death. I always started out because it just seems to be the right thing to do is give a guy's current sobriety date.
January 17th, 2019.
Now, Jesse has been around a little longer, and we were just talking about that. His recovery that he carries in his pouch is a longer term than his current sobriety date. We were talking about that a little bit, about how you don't lose it. And I mean, I heard one guy come to me once, and he said, I am a one-chip wonder. He said he got one white chip and stayed sober from there on out. And I know they're around. I've heard a couple other people talk about that. But it's not, I think the other story is more appropriate because it takes a while to get this trudging thing we do, getting our feet wet in this thing, get some momentum going, and learning how, I just say, the book even says that, although relapse is not a recommended thing, it's not required. It seems to be a part of most of our journeys is to have some stumbles out of the gate. Thing is that's why we say keep coming back. These silly little quaint little sayings we use around here. You're like, what is this keep coming back? Yeah, that's really cute. When I first heard them chant that, yeah, man, keep coming back. Fact of the matter, I am a product of keep coming back. I am. Because people made it okay for me to return. I was able to continue my recovery after stumbling and things, as it says, get worse and worse, not better. So, man, I am so glad that they made it easy for me to come back, because it is not easy to come back.
Right. Come back in and talk about, for me, I had a really good support system, and I've been part of this home group for, I don't know, every bit of 5 to 6 years off and on since it started in the basement of one of our members. And every time you come back in and try to explain what trivial excuse you had for going back out, eating that crow, and it's kind of a dual-edged sword for me. I don't want to ever take it lightly, because then it just makes it easy to flop in, flop out.
It should be hard.
It should be hard, but sometimes I make it too hard too. It's well, I can't go back in there and tell those guys that I messed up, because, they're all perfect somehow. And they got all this deal on one try, right? And then I find out more and more as I get to know people. Hardly anybody that I know walked in one day and stayed sober the whole time. And if you did, more power to you. Great absolutely. For you. I mean, I wish that when I was 21 years old and got my first DUI, and decided, hey, maybe this isn't right. Maybe at the age of 21, you shouldn't spend your 21st birthday on the 7th floor in the Louisville County Jail. Yeah. Maybe you should go try that AA thing that your family did or your parents did. And
I was court ordered.
Of course not.
16 years old, I had my driver's license 6 months and got my first DUI. And
which is normal for us,
they sent me to AA, and I didn't know a thing about it. and didn't hear a thing. But yeah, and I don't. To be honest with you, even then, I wouldn't even count that as seeds planted, because I don't remember anything but old men cigarette smoke, and coffee, and I just went in there to get that card signed so that I could comply.
Yep.
Any of the words
Same.
that I later on heard didn't ring true. Like I remembered the promises, or remembered the rarely have we seen a person. I don't remember anything. I was completely tuned out back then, so I wouldn't even count it as a seed planted.
Right. I just remember that big list of things, and it's like, oh, that's just like
that.
church. That's just like church. There's a big list of rules.
I do remember that this was held in a church, so that stuck.
Always the basement.
That I believe I had that. I thought it was affiliated.
Mm-hmm.
No
Same.
big deal.
So my family grew up in AA. I grew up in AA, and one of the biggest hurdles for me was being a child of alcoholics that are in recovery and in the program. It's weird because I have a whole life in AA as a child, where it was meeting a bunch of people I didn't know that were all very friendly and nice and smiling, and I knew my mom and dad had to do these things every so often. I probably couldn't tell what the difference in their behavior was when they did them or didn't do them, but for me it was an hour of fun, meeting new people. Sometimes there'd be a basketball gym, a gym or basketball goal or a pool table or a video game. I remember being at the old Easy Does It Club back in the day. And as I got older and AA started to become, recovery in general, and especially AA for me as an alcoholic, as it became relevant for my life, it was really hard to step over that bridge of, growing up in the program or around the program, and then trying to decide, that program was always for them, for those people, for those adults, for those parents, for those alcoholics. That there's no way that I could be one of those people now at the age of whatever it was, where those thoughts started to ring true. And I remember the first time I did a true first step, which was somewhere around the year 2010, 2011, actually 2011. Just admitting that I was an alcoholic, that admitting that I had a problem, period, was virtually impossible. But fully admitting that I was an alcoholic was like the biggest weight off of my shoulders, because I could finally let that world, these two worlds coincide. The world from my past as a kid, and the world from my present at the time. And that was a big monumental thing. Like that felt like a tornado had touched down right where I was standing. Like that world that I had all these worlds floating around, and it kind of came down and spiraled down and landed right on top of my head, and it blew a bunch of weight off my shoulders when that happened, which was pretty wild, So, of course that didn't end my journey. That was just the beginning, and been in and out several times since then. The one thing I have noticed is that my and somebody pointed this out to me when I was feeling down about it, I guess. And sometimes I felt down about it and didn't know I was feeling down about it. But they said if you look back and see the times you spent outside of recovery and the times that you spent inside, I actually noticed that the times I go back out are shorter, and the times that I'm in the program are longer. So if anything, it might be a slow ass road to get there, right. But interval by interval, they're shifting to the right direction, and that kind of gave me a little bit of juice to move forward and not beat myself up quite so bad during those times.
Heck yeah. More and more traction every time you throw your hat to the middle.
Yep. And this time is really unique for me, in so many ways. I feel like I said, being a part of this home group and this group of guys, we got the tribe, as it were, always loved me whenever I came back. Never said, a couple people who were wiser than me did say, you threw a lot of stuff away, and you had a lot of support in there, and you kind of, because it was all about me. One of my old sponsors said, you have an obligation. If somebody gives you their love and their attention and their mentoring and their sponsorship and their time, you don't just hurt yourself when you go back out. You actually have, in a way, taking some energy out of your home group and your friends and your
right.
support and your sponsor and some of your sponsee brothers, and that's just in the program. Surely, outside of the program, the people that love you have to watch you go through that ping-ponging effect. Sober, not sober, sober, not sober, different Jesse, same, good Jesse, bad Jesse, if you want to call it that. I don't know that that's the right word, but recovery Jesse, not recovery Jesse, selfish Jesse, unselfish Jesse. And, I
think that's part of that, like that journey we was talking about of trying to get to that spot that is really you, right? All those other things feel like you at certain times, but you really know in your heart back there that Jesse is not selfish. Jesse is not the drunk,
right?
All the things that come up with all that. That is not really you. That's this whole theory. This, like I like to say, is like similar to a computer virus or like a parasite that has hijacked my operating system. It's got me. I have a little visual of some guy behind the curtain, like Wizard of Oz guy behind the curtain with the joystick. It's got a hold of me back then, right? And
Totally.
He used to drive me.
Totally.
And I was not me. This thing, we heard a gentleman the other night at the TSSR meeting. It said something about that people have made these choices to do this stuff.
I wish. Yeah. I wish I could make these choices to do this stuff.
My operating system was hijacked. Trying to get back, to where something is operating me that works, not that doesn't work, that drives me into the ground.
Because I think for me, that's where the pain came in.
Yeah.
If I was a purebred, born to die of alcoholism guy, I wouldn't care if I went out and blacked out and hurt people and did this or that. The pain comes because I know that that's not me.
Right. Yeah.
It's
because it's contrary.
That's
to
the pain. It's contrary to my soul and my spirit and everything that I believe in.
Like that true north thing, that my compass needle, when it's pointing into my north, which may not be the same as your north. I won't make clear I'm there, but when my compass needle is pointed north, everything feels good and it flows and it feels natural. When I start getting off course, then it feels a little forced, and like the magnetic fields are just like pulling me in directions that's not comfortable.
And that's physically painful, and mentally painful, and emotionally painful. So it's this time around I've been doing things quite differently. You were talking about those old sayings and whatnot, and every time I grow a little bit, those sayings start meaning different things, and then in some ways they don't get quite so trivial as I used to pretend that they were to me when I was new. The one I've been really trying to live this time is get all in, get in the boat. And I don't know, I could go on forever about that alone, but when I worked the program in the past, I worked it. I mean, I did everything. I can't say that I really did anything wrong. I don't even know if wrong and right are words that are applicable to this.
Right. Yep.
If I start saying somebody did something wrong, then I'm that old crusty dude who only has one view of what the whole deal is. But I didn't do everything that I could have done, is a better way to put it. I know you guys, especially you, Dan, and some others, said that thimble. I carried around quite the thimble of recovery, which was...
Just give me a little bit.
Give me just a little bit. Not too much. Not too much.
Wouldn't want to overdo this thing.
I'd hate to be way too happy and free. I'd hate to really know the real me. I just want to kind of know a little slice of the real me.
That goes hand in hand with that quote I read a little bit ago. Don't live too big.
Right.
I need to stay small. I need to shrink from life and be down here where I deserve to be. I don't deserve to be out here and just like a blasting light.
Right.
I'm just a little bulb. I'm just a little dim bulb.
So, humble, but maybe not. Humble, yes, but shrinking down and trying to be a little thorn on the whole plant, no. If you're the big ass thorn on the plant, be the big ass thorn. Just make sure you don't go, tooting your own horn too much. But getting all in this time has been really good for me. The same guys that supported me before support me now, and I feel like I can support them better. I worked the steps before. I had sponsors before. I went to meetings before. I didn't work this. I worked the steps pretty well, I might add, according to what my abilities were at the time. I didn't use my sponsor as well as I should have before. I didn't go to as many meetings as I could have before. I shouldn't say should. Could have before. I kind of went to meetings in a sense as an obligation. Hey, you're supposed to go to 3 meetings a week. Okay, I did it. Check box.
Yeah. Meeting makers make it.
Yeah, not man, I've been to 9 meetings in 9 days, not because I have to, but because I want to, and I'm getting that juice from it. I'm doing some other things too, just being more honest and open about my feelings. And I didn't know it at the time, but I had a lot of walls still. And that's kind of like what you said about your former mentors and sponsors is it's weird when you get out of that relationship or when you get further down the line, some of those things that happened back then that didn't have the impact they may have had back then have more impact now. You know, and I was honest and open before to the best of my ability, but I wasn't fully honest and open before, because now I'll share about the smallest little thing that throws me off balance. And it used to be it'd have to pile up a little bit and be like, okay, I'm starting to feel a little off balance, but now I kind of report on it and share about it when it first happens.
Right.
And that's been really helpful, I've noticed, because the more I've done that, the more I've realized how deeply one small little thing can throw me off. And even though I kind of process it, and maybe at work somebody says, hey, I know that guy yelled at you, don't worry about it, he's just being a douche or something. It's like that helps a smidge, but that stuff still stays down in there and works at me.
Yep.
And works like a little termite eating through the wood in my brain there. And 2 or 3 days later, 5 days later, a month later, that's when the relapse would happen. That's when the fuck it button would be hit. It wouldn't be that day. It's hardly ever that day.
It's kind of why I like that compass needle, this analogy, the metaphor, whichever one it is that because I can just be like if I'm traveling someplace and I'm 1 degree off course, I'm not that bad today, right?
Right.
That 1 degree doesn't bother me in the moment. But when I get a couple miles down the road, I'm way off course off of that 1 degree thing. So that course correction, Don M. Kevin's sponsor says, I think at least when I'm read, he says angle of approach. That works for me too. But that's why I like that compass thing. It's because it's that little thing that can set me way off course later on. It feels like it's no big deal today. But if I will address that, and when I share that kind of stuff and I let that out, my other little thing I said, and I think I actually did make this enough. A lot of stuff I steal, and I haven't found out where I got this one. I haven't read it someplace else either, but discharging that negative energy to the universe through safe people. When I'm able to have safe people that I can get rid of this energy with, I know it's not judging me. I don't have to feel small because I'm sharing small things. That allows me to bring back my compass needle back into my alignment. That's the course correction. And then I can be back on course.
I've heard you use that term. I started using it, just so you know. I kind of stole it from you.
Which one? The course correction?
Yeah,
and I don't know where I got course correction. I'm sure I'm not. Like I said, that discharging the negative energy to the universe through safe people. I think I made that one up.
We need to start writing this down.
Yeah, I do.
At least you have it recorded now.
I do now have it recorded for posterity.
Yeah. So I don't know what else you want to talk about.
Well, I think if we don't talk about some of the war stories and talk about some of the depths of the madness and the how bad it was and that kind of stuff, I think we do I think we do the thing of disjustice.
Yeah. That's what everybody wants to hear, apparently, anyway.
Well, and I'm not going to allow us to dread on that. That's one of the cool things about the interview form of this speaker tape kind of thing is that we can make course corrections through a recording,
right?
Because I'm liable to go off on for instance, people behind the podium, we see it and we joke about it. They can go off into the nightmare, and you go the old standing joke is this guy ever going to get sober? He does 50 minutes of getting drunk,
right?
And the last 3 minutes is I got a sponsor. I worked at Steps and have lived happy ever after. Yeah, but I do understand that old stuff is important. That nightmare stuff of where we were at in some of those old stories, or rather, if you talked about growing up in a family that obviously this is I believe, and I think it's proven that this has a genetic component. So if there's people,
I'm positive of it.
If there were people around you in AA, obviously you have a genetic component.
Yes.
So I have some things I can think of now. Another little thing is as I progress in my recovery and I get clarity in my future, I'm also at the same time getting clarity in my past, because there was a time when you would listen to my story, and those aren't recorded, that I would have told you I had a perfect childhood upbringing.
Same.
And I'm not going to knock my parents at any level, but as I'm getting more and more recovery, as I'm recovering my true spirit down that path, I also can see that, there were some things that happened to me when I was a kid that weren't as pleasant as I would have told you they were a few years ago.
Right. I got a ton of those. Yeah. The older I get and the clearer-headed I get,
So I think it's important to look at some of those real early things that, I've had that. I don't know if you put it in the ballpark of molestation or what you put it in, but I had that sexual relationship with a guy when I was a kid that altered my compass needle greatly.
Same.
And I'm not going to blame it. I'm not going to, whatever it is, but I didn't have a way to correct that course. I didn't have tools in my toolbox. And when I go back and do the Christopher's tool of looking back at that photograph of when I was a little kid and the lights were still on, when I turn the page and I find out this picture where the lights are out in that kid, I know that event happened in between those two pictures.
Right. I haven't done that yet.
And I know that's
I haven't gotten to do that yet.
Yeah, and higher power made that just perfect for me. It was easy for me to do that because that photo album that my mother made me and put together in chronological order was just, and for whatever reason I sat down, I started at the newest pictures and I turned back in time and saw the lights come on in that little kid. So, I don't know if you want to maybe share something, if you can think of something that from when you were in your upbringing that helped, alter that trajectory.
So many things. We could go on forever.
We have a lot of time.
So, I can kind of sum it up, I think. As a smaller kid, probably between the age of 3 and 7, I was my parents were still, well, first of all, I never knew my birth father. My mom separated from him when I was 2.5 years old.
Wow.
And
that's
so fortunately it kind of happened early enough where I did that. I don't know if that was a thing or not. But she did meet another guy who I still call my father today. But when they first shacked up together, they were both in the madness, and I was probably from the age of like 3 to 6, 3 to 7. So that's my first real memories. Is it basically two things: one, mom and dad argue a lot. 2, Jesse spends a lot of time alone in order to. I really don't know why I did. I'm a pretty smart person, pretty intelligent, pretty in tune with what's going on around me, and I always played by myself a lot. I could engage myself with various things. I'd play baseball in the backyard by myself.
Oh wow!
I'd watched a lot of TV. I think that's part of my generation. TV became a babysitter in some ways. I used to think that's because I chose to do those things. I kind of realized looking back that when your parents are active in their disease, they don't mind if you spend a lot of time by yourself, and they don't mind if you watch a lot of TV. That doesn't mean that I wasn't loved or anything.
Exactly.
And
also you probably found that as an escape thing, because that was also probably there was some pain that you knew in your soul from watching the madness.
Yes.
Like
yelling, lots of yelling, and
when I watched the TV, that wasn't there. I could look into this. This device that helped me not see that.
Right. And I was a kid, so I liked cartoons.
Hell yeah,
G.I. Joe. It was kind of
things are designed to entertain you.
It was kind of a golden age. Transformers, G.I. Joe, He-Man, Star Wars was still right in the heart of all that.
Yeah.
But I did spend a lot of time alone, and looking back, I think that kind of manifested itself throughout my whole life, which was I started kind of protecting myself as a young kid. And when I got older and was going to school, I was a latchkey kid, so I would also get home from school by myself. I'd cook myself a little bit of dinner if I wanted it. I'd entertain myself for 4 or 5 hours at night till my mom got home. She worked 12, 14 hours a day. I really respect her for that. As a single mom, ultimately. And then, I kind of made my own way through life, is the best way to say it. And it started at a very early age. So obviously, coming into this program and admitting you have a problem that I can't deal with was a big challenge for me. It was almost like it wasn't that I didn't know that I couldn't handle it. It was that I didn't have the tools or the skills to admit that I couldn't handle something on my own. And, some other things that happened during my life is I was also a victim of molestation by 2 different people as a child. And I don't know that I've ever really processed all that, but I do know, I don't know that I ever held any anger or hatred or I would say those negative emotions directly because of that. But I think it did really warp my sexual development. It happened way too early.
Absolutely.
It happened, it wasn't necessarily that it happened towards men, but I think the fact that happened, period, really started making me hyper aware of what sexuality was at an age way too young. Then you got TV and advertising and, movies and stuff, and I was real keen into that early. I think that contributed to some of my moral corruption, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
Or, I call it now, it's more of an objectification of people, especially women in some cases, but people in general. And that pretty much sums up my childhood. After my stepfather, who I call my father today, who's in recovery, has 22 years this year. I can't remember the date, but sometime this year. He's a really good guy. After they split up, she went through a series of different relationships. At least one more husband that I know of. And the culminating theme there is I had father figures in my life that were never there very long. So the fact that I was kind of a loner, independent guy, and then I had a real good relationship with my mother as far as communication and presence. But as far as being able to make a relationship with another guy, that skill totally didn't develop for me as a kid. So, I always ended up with a fear of abandonment in a sense. And it was always easier to make friends with women than it was with guys. And I used to think that was sexually oriented, but I think it's just a function of that's just the type of person I dealt with more. I could deal with mom. We had a fairly good relationship up till I was about a teenager. But dealing with guys was just something I didn't like. It was scary. I never had any skills for that. And then being an independent person already just kind of added to that. So, I used to not think this, but I do have some trouble forming relationships with people, especially past the first layer of, hey, how you doing?
The surface stuff.
Yeah, the surface stuff. And I'm getting better at it now, of course, with some recovery tools and also being around good people, But that kind of was my childhood. And then, also, it kind of doesn't, I don't think it would surprise anyone that at the age of 9 years old, when me and my cousin found the box of pink champagne at my aunt's house.
Exactly what I was getting ready to go to next.
Yeah, we were
progress up through there. That first remembrance of using.
That was the first one, pink champagne, and there was a pack of rolling papers, job rolling papers, but nothing to put in them. But we wanted to be adults so bad, and probably wanted to change our moods so bad that delved into the box of pink champagne, drank 4 or 5 glasses, small glasses of that. I don't think that was anything profound other than I was really young when it happened. I was about 9 years old, but it did kind of start an ongoing craving for that feeling again, that release feeling. I would say the first time I got fully drunk or fully consumed with alcohol was probably the age of 11 or 12. And I don't know, I don't even remember the story, to be honest, but somehow the same cousin, and alcoholism pervades our family. I don't think that's anything strange for any of us, probably, but somehow there was a fifth of Mad Dog whiskey, and me and him drank the whole thing together, and I ended up I never really processed this, but we also took Easy Off Oven Cleaner that night and huffed it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. I almost think that my very first drink ever, I'm one of those people that was alcoholic at the very first drink, because 12 years old, I probably weighed 85 pounds or 100 pounds maybe, if I'm lucky. you drink a half a fifth of whiskey, and then you feel the need to also huff oven cleaner. It's like, whoa, where did that come from? Yeah. Needless to say, I got sick as a dog.
I have a similar kind of history of that. Instantly trying to I always say I always overshot the mark.
Yeah.
Whatever I was doing was never enough. It never was. And what my history, I would overshoot the mark because I would continue to do more.
Yeah, always more. And then that really, to me, was the foundation of it. I have to take one step back. That father that I had, or have, when he'd go fishing with his buddies, and I remember a fishing trip one time. I was probably 6-7 years old, and I knew what they were doing, and I basically told them I was so thirsty that I was gonna pass out. I kind of played it up as a 6-7 years old.
You gotta give me something to drink.
You gotta give me something to drink, and I knew the only thing they had was beer, and ultimately,
so they took you fishing. They didn't bring anything for you to drink.
They did, I'm sure, but I'm manipulative, right?
Yeah, okay. But I could also see in an alcoholic standpoint.
It's possible, to be honest. I don't know the circumstances, but I do.
I will get 30 beers to go fishing,
right,
and take my son, and I'll get him a Coke.
I'm sure that they took care of me.
Get him one bottle of water.
But I conned them, I made sure that I got a drink of that beer that they were drinking, and I only had a couple drinks. But in my mind, I know what my intentions were, and that started that young. But yeah, so things progressed, through my teenage years. Right after that, I found marijuana, and that to me was the single. Everybody talks about your mind slowing down and the big. I can finally breathe. I can finally relax. I can finally calm my mind down. That's what it was for me. And throughout my teenage years, that's all it was. Was
it a friend who brought the pot? I can still remember my friend that said to me that offered, and it's a little foggy, but I remember who it was and where it was at. I could take you to the house.
I know. My friend's dad was a distributor of that. And he had access, so yeah. But that was the first time my mind really slowed down, and I really got that fix, if you will. The booze was always there because it was accessible, I think. But once I got the combo of those two things going, that's pretty much all I did through my teenage years. And
same here. Or it was the marijuana and alcohol combo was a staple.
Depressants, my mind was always very active, and for whatever reason, that combo just seemed to really put things on ease temporarily. And I mentioned earlier before my first real trouble. I actually got in trouble, got busted at the age of 18 by a pregnant undercover cop while we were sitting in a park waiting for somebody to show up.
This should be illegal.
Yeah. So when you see 5 teenage kids sitting in a car in the heat of the summer with the windows rolled up, I don't know. We thought we were getting away with something, but apparently she happened to just be taking a walk with her dog and just popped over to the window and caught us. And I was doing some other things bad at the time, not necessarily due to addiction, but due to moral corruption. I was actually stealing from my place of business cigarettes because I was the guy who ordered the cigarettes, I was the guy who sold the cigarettes, and I was the guy who kept inventory of the cigarettes. And I had this job because it was a family friend. It was their business, and I'd worked there since I was old enough to work. Always a hard worker, I'll say. But she also found that a big backpack full of hundreds of dollars of cigarettes and other goods from their store.
Oh yeah, when you got busted smoking pot, so you had all this contraband with you.
Oh yeah, there. Yeah, and it was enough to be a felony.
How old were you?
I was 18, and it was enough to be a felony, and he ended up not pressing charges because I think only because of family friend, and he did me a real favor that day, and I made an amends I made an amends abruptly to him a while back, but I also feel like I didn't make the right amends. I made the amends of saying thanks for not pressing charges, and I'm sorry that I did that.
Yeah.
I didn't make the amends of you didn't press charges, and I didn't end up with a felony at the age of 18 with an otherwise promising life and career ahead of me. you didn't ruin my life before it ever got started, is the amends I really should have made to him.
Sometimes I wonder if my consequences would have been greater earlier, though.
They promise you they would have been.
That maybe I would have righted a ship in sooner. Again, I can't overanalyze that, but I do know that because I've got many slaps on the wrist that enable me to continue using rather than having a serious knot jerked in my tail.
Yes.
That will give me some pain and some consequences earlier. That's what we see all the time, is that people end up
skirting
not
on through.
falling.
Yep.
They don't fall all the way hard enough because somebody's around to prop them up and keep them from falling.
That's kind of the story of my life, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's why it was so hard to get
slap the
recovery.
floor. I had plenty of times to hit a bottom harder, but I kept on finding the escape hatch.
Right.
Somebody said this. I kept hitting this series of bottoms, but at every one of them, I would find a trapdoor.
Same. I'm resourceful, right?
Yeah.
Or I used to think that. I think that there was there was some divine power in that. There was some divine interference.
Yeah.
With that.
It's got a point there. I'm not. Yeah. That I was actually saved a number of times from having any further consequences.
Because I really didn't do a whole lot.
I don't necessarily overanalyze that story.
Yeah.
Of how that happened, but I do agree. When you said you was making amends to the guy for
not pressing charges, a very simple amends.
Yeah.
Right?
But the fact of the matter might be that he had, if I'd have had some stiffer consequences earlier on, maybe things have been different. I don't know.
Yeah. It's weird, a lot of things in recovery are like that. It can go one way or the other.
And a double-edged sword and all those other metaphors for the way the world works like this.
Yeah.
Surrender to win stuff. I don't know.
So if you're a black and white guy like me, as an engineer or a mathematical thinker, let's say, I like an answer. When you tell me that the world can be gray and there's two answers, if you want to blow my mind, try to explain that to me when I'm not in recovery. When I'm in the madness, I only see it one of two ways.
Right.
You're either for me or against me. You can never be for you in this hand and against you on this other thing. It's once you're against me, you're against me, and once you're for me, you're for me. I have trouble living in that world of gray. Still do. I've had some things come up the last couple of weeks where patience is the key, and it's really a struggle for me to live with that without the clear yes or no answer or something like that. But yeah, age of 18, I got my first trouble. Got arrested. Basically had to do some community service and got all that taken care of. My next big trouble was at the age of 21 when I got arrested on my 21st birthday.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah. Awesome, right?
Yeah, I like that.
I was the joke of the jail. I know
of course,
that's
happy birthday.
Right. And people were coming up, police officers were coming up to my floor specifically to tell me to see the guy who's there on his 21st birthday and wish him a happy birthday.
Yeah.
And, that's, I don't know. I can sum a bunch of stuff up by just saying from the age of 16 to the age of even not that long ago, that was my life, just constant consumption of alcohol. A lot of stuff happened in between.
What'd you drink mostly?
Beer, mostly.
I was mostly a beer drinker.
So something changed in me because when I first used to drink hard liquor, I'd get sick every time. I'd black out, I'd get sick, and I'd pass out.
It's an overshooting the mark I was telling you about. So I started reining back. I found I didn't do that on beer. I could continue.
Right, you can drink all night on beer.
Yep.
And then something changed though. Then I could start drinking that. Then I could start drinking that, and that was even more dangerous because then I didn't black out, pass out. I just stayed awake all night drinking hard liquor. But I still had to keep it on beer for the. I'm kind of frail physically from alcohol. Spiritual sickness, though, man, just pervades my story, I think. I haven't even really processed it all. This is the first time I've ever actually sat down and told anything more than like a 3-minute blurb or something. But the consequences just piled up, ultimately. I've had 5 DUIs total.
Wow.
Yeah. Most people know about a few of them. Very few people know about all 5 of them. Had my first one at 21. I got 2 in the same year, within the same month in 2006.
At 21 first birthday, was it a DUI? Or was
yes.
It,
yeah. And, did the deal on that. Got through it all. 5 years later, got it expunged. So basically, my record said I had none. 2006, the same year I got it expunged. I'm sorry, 2006 was 6 years after. That was 2000. 2006, I got 2 more, right back to back, and that was because of my alcoholism, but also because I broke up with a long-term girlfriend, and I had no coping skills for anything that life threw my way. Still just learning those, I think. But 2 more then. Got another one in 2012 and another one in 2016, and that's the 5. So those are my biggest consequences legally. Definitely not my biggest consequences in life.
Lucky to have a driver's license.
Yeah, I am. And I would say my biggest consequences is ultimately every relationship I've ever been has ended because of my alcoholism. And I'm on my 3rd long-term relationship, which I'm married, and I'm blessed that hasn't ended yet. We've been together 11 years. Don't ask me how. Probably divine intervention again, and also, some of it's because we're putting in work in recovery to keep that. But my first girlfriend in high school I had for 5 years, and the month I turned 21, January of 2000, I already knew what I wanted to do, which was go to the bars all the time. And she became 2nd place, 3rd place in my life. And it wasn't long after that, about May of that year, that we separated after 6 years of being together. That was also hard on me. Then a couple years after that, I had another long-term relationship with a girl for 3 years. And that ended because she became 2nd place, 3rd place. And drinking was 1st place.
Yeah, I can certainly relate to that. Pretty much everything good that has happened to me that I lost has been a result of that.
Yeah.
I like to say it was chalked up to bad luck, or it wasn't meant to be, or
right.
things like that.
I used to say that.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's kind of the horror stories, what got me back in this last time. And if sometimes in my recovery it was in response to trying to make a change because a negative thing happened, like you lose your license or whatever, which I think is still a valid response to want to change your life.
Sure, and it works too.
Sometimes.
I mean, it can work.
Yeah, it can work. For me, I would kind of get through the legal deal, and then be like, well, technically I don't have any responsibility, therefore I can go back to doing what I did before.
That's what happened to me every time.
This last time was a little different. Maybe that's why my recovery is a little different now. The last time was I'd had enough exposure to this program and the people around me that are still around me, thank God, that I knew there was a better way. And 2 years ago, or about a year and a half ago, it's funny, today's the day after St. Patty's Day.
Today is St. Patty's Day.
Oh, today is St. Patty's Day. But for party-wise, it's the Sunday after St. Patty's Day. And last year on this day...
Is it?
Yeah.
Rob and I were having a discussion.
Last night was party night for St. Patty's night.
Yeah, because it just happened to be Saturday night.
Right.
St. Patrick's Day was on a Wednesday.
In Louisville, you still party like on the Saturday before.
Okay, yeah. So that's what we were kind of, and I was like, yeah. I never grasped that like timeline thing.
Yeah.
Like actually, when it was on Wednesday, I liked that because then that gave me the excuse for Wednesday.
Well,
not
of course.
That I needed an excuse.
You needed then you just party on Saturday and Wednesday.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But it would give me that extra one actually, because if it was on Saturday, I was going to do it on Saturday any fucking way, right? So I couldn't I need that extra excuse on some other day of the week.
Of course.
One of the non-traditional party days. That way I can say, well, I'm drunker and shit on Wednesday night because of this.
And it's okay. Yeah. It's okay because that's what everybody does, right?
Yeah, I mean, what's the matter with you?
Yeah. So last year at this time, one of our sobriety brothers, recovery brothers, was getting a phone call from a random person because they found my phone in my coat. And I had just gone back out at the end of December, and this was, early March, and I'm already back to the point of leaving my coat and my phone. And it wasn't that I forgot it. It was that drinking became more important. and whatever happened next was where we were going next, and that, and oh shit, halfway through the night I forgot my shit. Right. But he got the call the next day, and he got the call because he would send me daily texts with a meditation reading of some sort, and somebody called and said, is your name Shane? And he said yeah, and he goes, I think I got your buddy's phone, or maybe your brother's phone or something. And he goes, no, that's just my buddy. He told me this later. I didn't know that that's how I'd actually got my phone, but this random person called me and said, hey, I got your phone. And I didn't know all this till I came back briefly, and talked to some people in May, but I found out that that's how Shane, I had gotten my phone back, was from Shane talking about it. But point being, I went back out in December because I was in recovery, and there were some things going on in my life that just weren't changing the way I wanted them to, is what it kind of comes down to. As an impatient alcoholic, I want things to happen the way I want for them to happen. I want it to happen immediately because I need immediate gratification. And things weren't happening that I needed to in my mind. And for whatever reason, I thought going back out, I just needed relief is ultimately what it came down to. I didn't really think it was going to solve anything truly, but I needed relief. And it provided the relief temporarily. But, I went back out and I made another run from December to November of last year. And then things just got really bad in that 11 months. My behavior changed. I went from not just a drunk to an angry person, which I've hardly ever been angry in my life. Very hard to be around. That's probably not new. I ended up messing up an opportunity I had with a band I was in because of my drinking. Band things started becoming an opportunity for drinking rather than playing music. And I ultimately had kind of a nervous breakdown in front of the owner of my company and my direct boss on a trip to China. And I'm talking like where tears were shed over work stuff. And I don't know that they really judged me in a negative way, other than this guy is so emotional. He's kind of basically a loose cannon. Like if he's walking around like this during this trip, I wonder how he's walking around all the time. And I think it truly opened their eyes to how severely alcoholic I was, because it was during a round of like heavy drinking with the boys, as it were. And ultimately for me, it was just, I came to the realization after, lots of issues with my wife, lots of issues with people, they'd call me on the phone and say, what are you doing tonight? And say, well, I'm doing this. They'd sound interested at first, and then they'd be like, have you been drinking? And it's like, yeah, a little. And they're like, you could immediately feel the energy change to like, yeah, I might meet up with you later or not. I don't know. So it wasn't that I was losing friends outright, but they were definitely picking and choosing when they wanted to hang out. And, I just got lonelier and lonelier. And, because of the recovery I had prior, I knew that there was a different life, and I knew there was a different group of dudes doing different stuff on Tuesday night. And I knew that I just wasn't, when we talk about the perfect north, I just knew in my heart and my soul and my mind that I wasn't at my perfect north. And it was like, what are you doing? You thought there was something else out here for you that was going to give you the juice. And it didn't, and that's when I came back. And I think for the first time, I came back for the juice rather than coming in to solve some kind of problem or to alleviate some kind of issue. It was really I just want the fucking juice back in my life.
Coming in to because my ass is on fire and I just need it put out. And then,
right.
It's been a thing. Once it gets in, you see, once the fire's put out, then we're all good.
Right. And that's why I carried that little thimble around, because I think I knew, well, once this thimble's full, I'll be pretty solid, right? I don't really need much more of that. And now I'm like the opposite of that. Now I'm like, if this is my way of life, which I firmly think it is, I don't want to carry a thimble around. I want a bucket, and I've really been looking for the new things. Like this whole podcast is a new thing, and I'm stoked about it. Going to meetings with guys that I love, randomly, we'll hit random meetings just and on purpose as a group together just because we're a group together, just because we're the tribe. It doesn't mean that we're trying to overrun your meeting or anything, but we want to bring 9 guys in from our home group.
We're just circling up together, man. We're just out, putting arm in arm together and going and going and kicking this disease's ass.
Yes, together.
Together.
I love it. And just getting back in my step work. I'm 60 days sober today.
Awesome. Is it today is 60?
Today is 60.
Congratulations. Super cool,
Thank you.
Dude.
And I'm starting my 4th step today. Later tonight. So.
Yeah, I know you just got done with the journey of finding that notebook, and now it's got me going because I'm going to be doing that before too awful long too, going through with a couple other guys. We're doing just a step study thing, and they've asked me to, it started out with God's blessed me with people continually asking me to sponsor them. So these guys asked me, and then it coincided with Christopher's book coming out, and then they wanted to come through with Christopher's book. And I thought, well, why don't we just do this on even keel and we'll go through the 3 of us together rather than typically when I take somebody through the steps, I'm guiding them. I'm not doing any of the work myself.
Right.
I don't do it. So we're going to do that. So I was at Myers today, and I just went down the notebook aisle and I noticed, like what you said, there's a black one, a red one, a yellow one.
Yeah.
Some's got some little designs on it, some patterns and stuff, but there was really nothing there. So you got a super cool notebook, and it made me like, I might revise my statement from here on out because it is so quick to get something on Amazon and get something mail ordered. No longer do we have to go to the Walmarts and the Targets and that to find this notebook, this quest for a notebook that's a little different than a lot of people do.
Now I did that first.
This optimized. You tried.
I tried.
And you just fell short
for a week and a half.
And that's what I always tell
weeks.
guys too. Don't settle, because I think that's a metaphor for this same thing of this rest of this. If I'm willing to settle for less than a notebook, then I'm willing to settle for only the thimble full of juice.
Right.
So this whole there's a lot of lessons underneath of this optimized way to do these steps that are more than just the steps. And I think that's a metaphor for that too, that if I settle for a notebook, then I'm willing to settle for less than in other places in my life also.
Right.
So like going to any length on that case is going out and shopping on the internet when you couldn't find what you wanted in
don't
stores.
kid yourself. It's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah.
Type in spiral bound notebook and see how you're going to filter out through the 11 million results.
Yeah. 87 million hits. Okay.
And guess what? I don't want to kid you. 90% of them are still red, blue, and black and yellow. And so it wasn't as easy as it sounded, but
yeah, but like I said, it was the avenue, so that's a neat thing, and I love the look of the notebook too. That is super cool. That is
Thanks,
really
man.
juicy.
Thanks. So I'm doing really well, man. I wanted to come here today, honestly, just to share, really fully, openly share, because when I go to meetings, when you get this, when you get these kind of feelings and this kind of results in your life, I know other people around me have had it, so I'm probably just saying shit they already know. But when I go to meetings, I want to share, and sometimes I don't really have to share, so I got to watch myself. Like, am I just sharing because I'm so full of energy and I'm trying to be happy, and I want to share the energy with people. It's not that I want to share to hear myself talk.
Right.
It's I want to share the stuff that I know that some of my other brothers know, so that when you walk away from this meeting, what we do. It's not a pride thing to say, look how good we are. It's a, man, if you only knew that this shit existed. Like if I'd only known 6 years ago when I first joined this tribe, that if I'd have stayed in and done some of this work properly, I'd be already living this life, and it's like I'm just now getting to it, so I'm really stoked about it. But I wanted to come here today just to share, because a lot of times newcomers don't get to share,
right?
And a lot of times when they do, they either get told they're wrong, or you're not entitled to share. I had one of our friends told me he went to a meeting and he said he shared on gratitude, and he was told because he was only 30 days sober that he probably shouldn't share about gratitude. And that really ran through me badly, because it's not necessarily saying that that's wrong, but it's also saying that we're all human beings. So we're in recovery, yeah, but we're also human beings. So what I heard out of that was, you're not a worthy enough human being to share that you're grateful for something.
Yeah.
what the fuck is that about, right? You don't have to be in recovery to be grateful for something.
Yeah, that's the same thing what we were talking about earlier. When somebody sees whatever that dynamic is, and I will tell you that I'm not totally immune to it either at times. I hope I'm more involved today than that. Then I see it and I catch myself. I make that course correction mentally because I promise you that I'm just as alcoholic as ever. But the thing where when I see that you're happy, I can't do that. You can't be that happy. You're not deservable of being that happy. You've only been sober this long, and you can't. You
haven't fully worked the steps.
Yeah, right. Yeah, or any. And even if you have, so now you've been worked the steps, and now you haven't done them enough, and you haven't, and so there's this thing where when I see it all the time because, frankly, I'm just pretty jacked up most of the time about my recovery. I just am high on it, and it's not. It's authentic. I hope. I believe it is. It is authentic. I shouldn't say that. Hope it's perceived as authentic. I guess that's where the hope is. And I think it is, but then you still get this stepped on thing, like I was saying about the girl that gave me the card after speaking yesterday, telling me that don't be a comedian. And I'm like, I don't think did I put off a comedian vibe? Some people laughed. We're supposed to laugh. That's okay, right? We can have some fun in recovery. But that's the same thing with this guy Sharon, that's saying, you guys don't deserve to, he's, ultimately it's just I'm a little better than you are.
Exactly. Or your recovery's not worthy enough, Yeah. Which is, if I heard that as a younger guy with 30 days sober, I don't think I'd come back. I'd be like, man, this is just like every other group I've ever been in where I wasn't enough, where I didn't know the rules or follow the rules the right way. And, I think that's a travesty, personally.
Yeah, it is, certainly.
Especially if somebody's going to find the program younger and they have to go, they choose to go back out for 7 more years like I did.
Yeah.
That sucks.
So I got a little thing like where I was going with that one thing is like our home group that we used to talk about, these guys and this part of this how tight and just, I'm a little protective of that. So I will find myself at times like judging who ought to be deservable coming to our group or not. And it's just in my head. It's in the back of that thing of like when I see somebody out and I'm like, yeah, I'm not inviting that guy. He ain't ready yet.
Right.
And I'm like, well, who are you to freaking be deciding who's? Now I do follow my gut on that, and I think there's some intuition involved that's valuable in that regard. But that's where I find myself kind of watch out because when I can see it elsewhere, I usually have to take a look and see it in me also.
Same.
That spot it, you got it kind of thing. But we get these opportunities, and this is one of the things that I don't quite understand, and I don't judge it at all, but one of the things that's been handed to me is all these unique ways to participate in my recovery that are different. Who gets to do this, right?
Totally.
How many other guys around town are getting to do this, right?
Nobody that I know of.
Yeah, I don't know a single other person. And so we get these things in like how tight our tribe is. And, when we got this group chat thing, I don't know anybody else that's got that connection with people that we've got. Some people are in some group texts together, which I personally despise because this thing is easy. This is the thing where I can mute it. I can play when I want to play. I don't have to, if I don't want to, we get to do that, and stay this connected. That other thing that I've been hearing tossed around a lot. The opposite of addiction is connection. Because when I am isolating, when I'm going and doing my other stuff, I need to be. That's part of why these. I heard this term too: the mutual support groups, MSG. Mutual aid support groups, I think is what the guy said. MSG, the MSGs, which is also that chemical they put in food, right?
Right.
But also is like a little abbreviation for messages, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, so
wow.
Maybe it's the message.
That's cool.
This mutual support group thing. I instantly went to that crap that you used to put on your steak so it would be tender instead of cooking it right. The shortcuts.
Keep you coming back for more.
Yeah. But that connection that we get through these groups, and that's part of why, that's why these things really work, because that's the thing I've said for a while is that, you can come into you can come into a meeting and you sit in the back of a room and not share with anybody and not become connected with the group and not get a damn thing. Not much anyway.
That was
certainly come with a less than a thimble.
You get the thimble at the most.
Yeah. And I can understand too that sometimes you need to do that, right? You're just not ready to come in and throw all your chips in the middle of the table. Very few guys are able to do that. We've got some people that's come into our group lately that seems to have been able to dive in. which is really cool. I love to see that, but most of the time that's not quite the way it works. Is being able to just dive into it. Like I said, you need to share, because you got to open up. That's part of this vulnerability concept here. That component too, is that if you don't come in and be vulnerable, and I've heard that, like, a lot of the things you've said today hinged on, to me, that vulnerability component of being able to be part of, to come in and lay your stuff, or to share your what you've defined as the small stuff in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to actually let people in and hear that stuff and share that stuff with it is this vulnerability component. And if you're not able to practice, that's why the word practice means so much to me. If I'm not able to practice this getting vulnerable on the small stuff, I'm not going to be able to get vulnerable on the big stuff later. And when I need it, like what I was saying about needing that fucking pause button sometimes in life. If you do not have a strong pause button, and you have to go to the mountain by yourself when you're standing there all alone, because that's where I was at in that particular moment, completely alone, basically. I didn't have anything to grab a hold of immediately. If I didn't have that internal, then I wasn't going to survive those things. I'll run off and do what I'm going to do. I'll go get some medicine that'll fix my malady really quick. A friend of mine shared something, and that's why I'm looking at my phone. I also got a text from my daughter wanting something, and then 5 minutes later, after I didn't respond, never mind, which I couldn't have done anyway. She wanted me to take her someplace in a minute. I would like to, but I can't. I like this, and this is why our group works so well, and I think the group me and stuff, it says, sharing personal stuff openly requires a safe and tight container. You got to know these guys are safe. You got to know that if you share something that's confidential, that you don't have to say, don't tell anybody, right?
Right.
Because these guys, these brotherhood like this, they know what not to do and what to do, and they know how to handle sensitive information. So if I'm not feeling that with my tribe, then I can't let my stuff out. I can't put it in the middle of the circle and let you all chew on it. And then that's the other thing, is that everybody's got to be doing this. But all members, in order for that safe and tight container to be effective, then it's best supported when all the members participate consistently. So we need everybody doing that. You don't get off the hook. That guy there, I need to hear from you.
Right.
You don't get to sit over there in the corner, because you've just let you're the leak in the container, in a sense. And some other guy can't share because you're not.
And that was kind of me in the past, I'd soak it all in, but I wasn't giving much back.
Right. Yeah. That's another metaphor for that same thing. It's that you have to be also it's a give and take. I say price of admission is participation.
Yep. And I kind of would get in my head too before in my previous recovery of, where am I? Am I doing stuff good? Am I doing stuff bad? Am I progressing at all? I can't see it. Oftentimes I don't feel it or see it, because I can't be, outside of my body. Like, what did you just do that there? It was weird. But if I'm not sharing, then I'm not getting any kind of feedback on where I'm at. I'm playing judge of where I'm at. And I really need the group and other people who do this better than I do, or who've done it for longer than I do, to be like, I need to hear every now and then, you're doing this right, or maybe you should look at that, or maybe you should try doing this, And if I'm not sharing, then nobody can give me any kind of feedback like that. It goes kind of back to my own. I got this. It's my own thing. I'm going to do it my way, and that hasn't worked for me. It's led me back to several relapses. So nowadays I have to share. I've kind of learned that I have to share. I want to share, definitely. But I tend to want to share on the stuff that sounds really good and juicy. And I don't necessarily always want to share on the stuff that makes me look a little like lacking. Like, hey, maybe you need to do some stuff on that. Like, maybe you're not where you think you are for that or something. So.
When I hit the wall on that thing I was sharing earlier, and I think I will, I hate to be a little vague about it, but I don't necessarily want it out for public broadcast. I I kept that under my vest for a little bit. Now I let my sponsor know about it, so I had that, and I needed to do that at some level before it was safe really to let that out at the next level. But a thing hit me was like, I'm walking around these meetings and I'm doing this. I'm talking to talk about sharing, like that thing I say, the discharge this negative energy through safe people. And I'm talking that talk, and I'm not walking the walk.
Right.
Because I got this one thing that I'm not sharing with y'all.
I think we all tend to do that.
Yeah. So, but it was able to get it out, and I don't second guess that either, because the particularly sensitive nature of that particular episode probably warranted it of being like that. But I just lost my job after 28 years, and I went to a meeting. I didn't share it. And there was quite a few burning desires in the room that day, and I deemed mine not one. Yeah,
been there and done that before.
Yeah. So, and just to throw out the other side of that, I have this fantastic support network that I'm no longer just required. I'm no longer just dependent upon my meeting to let y'all know that anymore. So that used to be my only really sole, unless I was to like call everybody up individually. Hey Jesse, right. and hey Nick, and hey, and run down my phone book and tell everybody. My only other opportunity was to come and share that openly in the meeting. Right. Well, now we got this group thing where I'm able to discharge that energy there, and let, and although there's some people that wish to not or choose to not, whatever, participate in that, I'm still got a really nice circle there, a really wide net of like 30 people that I'm able to discharge that energy to. And you know what? Most of those guys doing that burning desire in there don't have that. Most of those guys doing the burning desire the other night don't have the network that I have established. Now, again, I don't want to deem my, I got to be real careful about deeming my shit on some other level. But the fact of the matter is, I've got a really strong support network underneath of me. So, I don't know what I need to share that just because I'm gonna talk this talk. I better walk a fucking walk and go in there and do it. And if it's a week later than normal, then it just is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is, we get in these meetings, and we've got these 5 burning desires, and it's good to be, we're just going to maybe we need to have a meeting. It's just burning desires.
It was a great meeting.
Our group's getting big.
Yeah. It was a great meeting, though, too.
Yep. All right, it's getting big. It used to be that when we had 20 people in this meeting, you may or may not have a burning desire a week, maybe. Well, we got 3 times that many people attending every single time, so you're probably going to have 3 times the needs of burning desire type of things going on.
Right.
That require that. So it works exactly the way it's supposed to work.
I was guilty of that too. Like I said,
I'm not sharing.
That, and like you said about judging small stuff versus big stuff. I would judge my burning desire. Is that something that really? Yeah. I mean, I do need to question whether it's a burning desire. Like, am I going to go drink, or is this just a problem? Right.
Yeah.
And the answer for me is I don't know, and that's the confusing thing. It could be not today, but it could be 8 days from now.
Well, that's what's coming to me on this particular issue is I don't really know if I'm going to drink over this or not. I like to tell you I'm not.
We all say that.
But the fact of the matter is I don't know.
You'll find me later.
Yeah, and I don't know about that on some other things either, so I have to watch that. I think I know something when I stood. What I know and don't know usually is not what gets me in trouble.
Right.
I won't be able to define that when it comes. Laying that scale out in front of me and like trying to place my shit where it is on the scale all by myself. Is this between the scale of 1 and 10, how close to burn desire is this, Dan? And I'll have a meeting with me and all my committee up in my head, and we'll come to the conclusion that this one is not worthy, and I won't tell a fucking person. Now, fact actually is I have a guy that I actually do. I really do pretty much keep my sponsor in contact with everything that I do. So I do have that too. Again, I have this. I joke around, and this is not totally a joke. It's somewhat real that if I'm going to do anything anymore that carries any more weight than buying new underwear, I'm usually letting my sponsor know about it. And sometimes he knows about it when I'm doing that. So I do have that also, and every one of these things that I'm talking about, when I say this walking the walk, talking the talk stuff, not in any of these has that man been excluded from this stuff. Never do I withhold that from him. I just don't. I may be a little slow to play on some grounds, like I'm new to like sharing relationship issues with my sponsors, something I've not really been doing, had to do, whatever, up until lately. And so that was a little new to me. I might have been a little slow on the draw in some areas about going to him with some of that stuff. But I certainly did and do. And then that's getting more comfortable again, too, now. Instead of putting it on the scale, deeming it where it's worthy or not. You were talking about that other thing about us, all of us. What my metaphor for that is like everybody's holding a mirror. All my support group has a mirror. And they actually, a lot of times they don't really even tell me, in a way. But they hold the mirror up so I can see me. And if they're not around, I can't see me.
Right.
I can't see me at all. But when my friends are around and my support group's there, same thing with my sponsor and everything. My sponsor, he's got this unique thing where he rarely gives me the answers. Almost never does he answer my questions. But by talking to him, I get my answers. That's usually the way it happens for me.
That's juicy right there.
Yeah. Because it used to be I wanted him to give me answers. And then as a sponsor, when my guys bring me stuff today, I have to remember that too. And I'm not necessarily here to give this guy the answer. I don't have the answer for him. Really.
You don't have all the facts usually either.
Yeah.
So.
And what works for me, like this whole thing about this was my true north and your true north not being the same. Only thing I can do is really share all my experience and that kind of thing, and hope that the same dynamic happens like what happens with my sponsor. That by talking to me, my guy gets his answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I gave him an answer. That's not always easy. My sponsor got a lot more years of practicing that than I do, and I get a little let down sometimes when that's what I want. Damn it, I'm looking for an answer.
Me too.
I got A or B. Pick, because I don't want to.
Oh, what about C though? Oh shit, yeah. C. You're really fucking me up with C.
Yeah, how often I'm wrong, and that's a good thing about having the sponsorship thing is being able to know. Sometimes even just when I share with him, I'm like, whoops. Just letting it out. Let me know just exactly where I stood on this particular thing.
I've been doing that a lot lately, and it's really helped my life, I'll be honest. Some people here know Drew B is my sponsor. When I came back in, I came to the guys that I consider the elders of this group, and for me, that might just mean the people that I respect the most. And I had some ideas of who I wanted to sponsor me, but I basically came and just said, "You guys know me better than I know me, probably, and you guys know this group and what it's about better than me, probably. Why don't you help me find a sponsor?" And I got hooked up with a great sponsor. And I like, Dan, you always say, if your home group's not the greatest home group, then go find the one that is. And if your sponsor's not the greatest sponsor, go find the one that is. I've had good sponsors in the past. I wasn't capable of using them the way that I should have. But for whatever reason, this go around, me and my sponsor are clicking just greatly. It might be because we're similar in a lot of ways. It might just be because we're both on that wave, the right wave at the right time. And we both need each other. But I know that in the last 2 weeks, I've called my sponsor more for stuff that I would have never called anyone for daily. And it's basically changed my day. Those days that I do that. Like one day I carried an issue at work that I had with another employee around for 6 hours. From say noon to 6 o'clock when I finally talked to my sponsor. And as soon as I talked to him, that went away. That negative energy went away. And it's not because it just magically went away. He said, do this or think about this or don't do anything and just pray or, something. And in that particular case, the issue went away literally when I woke up the next day because that person called me and we everything got resolved. And what I would have done was said, that's not a big deal. You don't need to tell anybody about it. I would have carried the anxiety around from 12 o'clock that day till whatever day it was that it finally went away. Or I would have drank over it ultimately. So I'm really seeing the value in that too. You know, it's just another one of those things. I'm just amazed at like how hard-headed I am, or it's not even that. I don't know. Just I think everybody has to be ready. I know I did. And you know, I just laugh at myself because I'm like, all they told you to do was get a sponsor, go to meetings, work the steps, and don't drink, right? And somehow I couldn't follow those 4 simple rules or suggestions,
right.
You know? And it's like the minute you do, I've had a monumental change to my life, you know? And it's like, I have to just laugh. Like, A, why didn't I do it sooner? I don't know the answer. I don't know that anybody was. B, why did I have to still do it my way? I don't know, because I just didn't want to get happier, I guess, secretly. So that stuff, I just laugh, you know, like, because I'm always like, I think I'm doing something new. Like, I'm doing this now. I'm talking to my sponsor every day. It's like, well, most people successfully working the program are saying, yeah, bro, we've been doing that for a while. Welcome to the club, right? And when I say things like that, when I hear myself saying that, I just kind of laugh. Like, yeah, I called my sponsor and he helped me with my problem.
Uh-huh.
Wow, what a fucking shock.
Revolutionary.
Right? Jesse, you're the best
You should
guy in
write a
AA ever,
You should
right?
write a book about that.
Right. So, but I just smile now when I say that because I can laugh at myself. You know, I used to criticize myself. Now I just laugh like, yeah, you're just an alcoholic, man.
Tools work. They really do. It's silly, that other stupid little saying, it works if you work it.
Yep, and it's true.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. I don't know where to go. I actually had a thought during that last thing you were saying there, and it disappeared on me. One thing, everything, I always feel like I got to fill up the airtime, and sometimes
Me too. You can always edit the airtime out later.
I bet I don't even want to.
Don't even hit delete. Don't even hit cut and paste.
I haven't cut a single thing out of any of these podcasts since. Well, I haven't cut a single thing out of these podcasts since one of the early ones. I think it was Chase who was here. It was the acorns were falling out, big ass oak tree back there, and they were hitting it, sound like bullet shots. And I started trying to cut them out, and I thought it was pretty cool that I could actually do it. I could zoom in on that, and you could cut that out of your voice. It was so sharp and quick of a sound that I could cut it out, and it didn't even bother what the guy was saying.
Really?
Yeah, you didn't even hurt. Chase could be talking,
Science.
and you could come in there and clip that acorn. It sounded like a bullet shot. That's what it sounded like. Bam! But then I was like, you know, I'm not going to cut them all out. I'm not going to sit here and listen to this thing.
Right,
And do
1,000 cutouts.
It wasn't that many, but and then I had a friend who dropped a lot of last names in here on the podcast, but I had a microphone malfunction that day that actually caused the podcast really ultimately unusable. The whole thing, so we had to do a do-over.
Yeah.
I hated doing that. So that just ended up being a do-over. And so all that editing I tried, and I actually spent a lot of time trying to resurrect that, try to salvage that recording. And I learned another lesson that, you know, it's just, hey man,
the moment is the moment.
Sometimes you have to
right?
re-record it, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to throw it in the garbage and start over. You just have to. So that's what I did with that one. So no, I haven't, and sometimes I have a feeling now, you know, and of course I'm getting more and more comfortable behind the microphone. I'm getting more on my feet on doing this, that at the end of the podcast, somebody said, did you listen to it? And I'm like, no, I haven't needed to listen to it. I was there. Now I will, but I don't preview it before broadcasting. I don't listen to the whole thing anymore because I know what was happening. I knew what was here. I know what happened today. I'm aware today. I'm sitting here in an aware state.
In the moment.
I listened to you. I know what happened. There's nothing that was said today that I need to edit. There's nothing, you know. We don't even have any. I don't know. You used to hear the dogs barking.
Mm-hmm.
I really haven't heard them today. I don't know if they're not been barking or if I'm starting to tune them out.
Right.
Sometimes when I'm listening to one of the podcasts, I'll hear the dogs barking in the background and think a little thing about that. But this is what it is. We're sitting in a wood shop in my backyard that, as far as I'm concerned, was manifested for this very purpose. Just to go on with that, you know, I lost that job last week, and I know I'm going to be sitting back here working. I got a piece of finished work sitting there, a piece of work that's going on over here. I got this table I'll be shooting podcasts and recording podcasts at when that was made in this very shop. Talk about true north alignment. I'm relatively certain. I graduated from yoga teacher training Sunday a week ago today. I registered for my actual. I have one little more step to do real quick, but before I am, but I'll be able to put that YRT, which is a registered yoga teacher, 200 hour trained. That's like the baseline thing behind my name if I want to. So
we're all waiting for that.
Yeah, I'm a yoga teacher. So all this stuff is aligning, and I know, and I say that again to say this is that this is not. I'm not unique in this. This is available to everybody, and I feel like to some extent that's what my role is here is to do that. We read that. I might even read it here. Just feels like we're running out of gas.
You
feel like we're running out of gas? Not that we're running out of gas. It's just the end. It doesn't have to be forced, and it can. I think
I want to play another song though.
Yeah, definitely. But we'll pause it and we'll do that. Put the song on different tracks so it's easier for me to manage on that way rather than being part of the podcast. I've heard this before. Robin sent it to me not too long ago, and then up on Facebook today it popped up from another friend of mine, actually the guy who turned me on to Bob Earl. The guy that turned me on to Bob Earl posted this on Facebook today, and it's the same quote as Robin gave me, but with some more at the end of it in a particular spot that means something to me today. It's Marianne Williamson, which I have never heard of. I don't know who that is. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? Your playing small does not serve the world. That's the part I like. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. That's freaking cool.
Love it.
I'm done playing small. I'm not shrinking back on this recovery thing and what it's done in my life. I think that's one part of this purpose is what's going on here is to continue to let everybody know, that there's, Mark Houston is another speaker I've heard. He's since passed. And he's the one that told me this, I smell more. That's where I got that from, hearing him, that I smell more. And every time I continue to just look around the corner, there's more. And so then that builds a momentum, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I'm not running into dead ends in my life anymore that look like the back end of an alley that scare me and cause me to think, well, this is it. This is all I get.
Thimbles full.
Yeah, I don't. I've got like a tanker ship of juice capacity today. And I am my own limitation. I am my only limitation of what recovery can do for a fella. And I know it's because of this that does it.
Well, I have to say, watching you inspires me, and that's not lip service. That's
thank you.
Watching you, like you said, we knew each other when you first came in. I was new still, and
I remember Jack said to me, Jack K said, "Oh, I got to introduce you to Jesse." Right? Because he goes, "What do you do for a living?" I told him I was an engineer. Oh, you got
right. So we must be identical. Right, we must be identical people. But just watching you, man, really inspired me. Because we were sponsee brothers for a while, and in fact, a little bit of jealousy. I'll be honest with you. It's like hearing what Dan did. I've since turned that around. Now it's well, you can fucking do what Dan does if you get up off your ass and get another thimble so you can fill up 2 of them instead of 1. But yeah, man, the stuff you do and doing this, you give of yourself, you give of your time, you help people who are new, you help people like me who need to maybe hear some stuff a different way. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, man.
And I appreciate being
my
here.
Heart, man. I know I'm loved today, and it's truly touching that you think that. I got a bunch of guys that really, really do, and I care about them too, just with the same energy, that I got this tribe, this band of brothers, that continues to grow, that love me and allow me to do this. I ride on their shoulders. They come and record their stories so that other people can hear it. This is not about, circuit speakers and other things like that. This is about regular guys doing recovery at a level that simply is amazing. Honestly, I'm watching guys left and right. We got a new guy with a ton of legal trouble, and I'm just like chomping at the bits. And one of these things where I'm peeking around the corner, like with my childlike eyes, going, "Watch what higher power can going to do in this."
I said
time.
the same thing to said person.
Yeah,
like I've seen it work with you.
Yep.
I know it'll work.
Yep, and I know a mutual friend that has actually put him already in a box, and somebody completely separate. In another meeting, I know that these people know each other separate from my involvement with either. And I said, we have a mutual friend, and I told him their name, and this person like looked at me and was like, yeah, he is, like I might as well put a check mark next to his name because he is done. Right. Stick a fork in him, he's over. No reason to even know this guy anymore because he's going to be up the river for long. And I smiled at this person, and I said, you watch. I said, because she knows my story a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I said, you watch. And I watched her. When I said that to her, I think it never dawned on her. She had him sold down the river.
Right.
And when I said that, I saw her like go,
you're right.
Yeah, like, I've never even considered. And that's kind of that same limiting thought pattern that we do with ourselves and with others. That's like this manifesting, that's an awful way for us to operate today, is to think that people are not worthy of getting this, that guy ain't never going to make it.
Right.
Or did you hear what he shared? His problems are piled up so deep that he's never going to be able to dig out from underneath that. You watch. You watch.
Amen.
I watched some cool stuff happen. I watched a girl not too long ago get sentenced to 30 years in prison. It was rocking in recovery around here locally. And she did. And I thought, I said, I was always able to say before that period that you work the steps, you do this and apply these principles into your life, and that doesn't happen to you. And she broke the mold, and I was like, I can't say that anymore. And she got sent to prison for 30 years, and in 9 months they let her back out.
Right.
And I went, yeah.
Right. Yep, mode's still intact.
Yep. It's and again, it's never on my time either, right? That's the other thing. It's just that I can't give up on that. I can't start writing the end of other people's stories for them, nor mine. And now she's back in action, and she started a recovery home here in New Albany, and she'd left that to, she got ripped away from that. Mm-hmm. And now she's back. And man, what a story that is, man. When you're sitting in there and you're at some recovery home, you're trying to get sober at this house, and you say it can't happen for me, and that girl there has that story, those are the bulbs. That's this thing of not fucking living small. I'm not going to live small, and she don't either. We need that.
Yep. You saying that kind of triggered a thought for me, which was I had that same thought. This couldn't happen for me, right? I've seen it happen. I can admit it'll happen for you. I've seen it for other people, but for some reason, we get in our heads and say
that's actually what I was thinking.
It can't happen for me.
That's exactly the thought that I had when I hung up a minute ago.
And I think that for me is more of my spiritual sickness than any kind of addiction sickness. Yeah. That's what happened to my soul, saying,
living small.
I'm not worthy enough for something good to happen to me, but it can happen for you,
Yeah. That other thing, like what Christopher was talking about in the thing the other day, it's like, I know some people could use that.
Right.
Not me.
Right.
And I think that's some of that. I think inside there is that same thing about, A, not me, B, can't happen for me. Those lies we tell ourselves. I've been that's another thing I need to write down and do something with. I'm almost thinking about maybe I want to do something with that particular train of thought before too awful long, in a formal manner, of the lies that we tell ourselves. It's been it's a theme in the yoga thing.
Love it.
I was taught throughout the 200 hours of yoga training.
Yeah.
And that was far from just learning how to hold myself and tell people what pose to be in. There was inquiry work in there. It's much like 4-step kind of work where you delve to your inside, just like we say, I got to go in this inside job, right? So we did that, in the yoga stuff, and a lot of that was based on a premise about the lies we tell ourselves, and that hold us back. And so like real quick, the ones that one lie we all can relate to is that I can just have one.
Of course.
I'm not hurting anybody but myself.
Oh, guilty.
All that shit in my past don't bother me.
Guilty of all those.
Yeah. And so when I see the promises happening for other people, I say it can't happen for me. Yeah. And so all these limiting thoughts and these lies that I'm telling myself, you know, and I actually can speak. It's a language I use in my relationship now in order to like communicate. Is that the story I'm telling myself right now is that you're like moving away from me. You're mad at me because of this. You know, so we can talk in that manner in like a productive way. We can communicate because I'm just saying what the story I'm telling myself. I'm not telling you I feel a certain way,
right?
Because that can evoke some stuff. If I say I feel, you know, then I can't help your feelings, you know. So we can some language that works within a communication, especially in a relationship, is to say, you know, the story I'm telling myself is this, and then we can hash that out and get to the bottom of it without stepping on one another. Because I recognize it as just being some damn story. Now, sometimes the story I'm telling myself is okay to be true, right?
Yeah.
It's okay for the story to pan out, too. Doesn't always have to be a lie. But we hurt ourselves with these lies. That I'm not worthy. We did the exercise in that, and we did a statement, and it said, the lie that I tell myself is that I am blank and that I am not blank. And my new way of being is blank. So we're taking these things that we're saying we're not, you know, this lie we're telling ourselves, and then making like a personal commitment that I'm going to be this way. And those are tough, and we spend a lot of time with them, you know, and I feel funny sharing it, but I will, and a lot of people will, but we'll have, because you got to get up in front of everybody and say it like you mean it. You know, and we all do that, to go around again, and you spin around and say it again, and then you do this like wheel your finger around in a circle, means do it again to where you feel that you've said it at a manner and a authenticity that you, and so the lie I tell myself is that I'm broken and that I'm not worthy, and my new way of being is of abundance. And whatever that means, you know, sometimes I want to look at that abundance as like monetary, and that's not what I mean. I mean living a life of abundance where I have all this friendship and this love come from different direction. It can mean money too, because I'm not going to say that spirituality and money are not the same thing too.
Right.
I think I get to attract that and manifest it into my life also. But that's what it comes down to from those early age stuff, is that I got to a point and sitting down doing some of this inquiry work there, is that I look at myself like I'm broken. And by broken, I mean I can't be fixed. I'm beyond repair. And that's why I'm not worthy of having any of these blessings. That's why I only get to show up with a thimble.
Yep. Too much baggage.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, so I have a new way of being today. And that is that, so that abundance, what was right with this thing I read a minute ago, is that I'm not going to live small.
Love it.
I'm done with that bullshit.
Same.
And if y'all don't like it, you know, those out there that don't like it, don't like Dan living big, don't watch Dan.
Right. Although it might be hard to do.
So cool. Well, one thing, and I certainly, we're at an hour and a half. And
that's long.
About 2 hours is as long as I like to go.
Yeah.
That's about as much audio as I can upload in one episode, because I got a free podcasting host and they're not charging me a nickel for putting it up, but they do have some limitations. I didn't even know that was there. And B, I think that's about as much as you can ask somebody to sit down and listen to.
That seems long for me.
You might be able to sit down and listen to Joe. I can sit down and listen to Joe Rogan. There's one not too long ago. It was 4 hours and 45 minutes. I couldn't listen to it in one setting. I listened to it over time. But a lot of his are 3 hours or 3+. But for the Spiritual Underground podcast, I'm trying to put someplace in the neighborhood of 2 hours as being. We've went over a few times. We've got some that are a little over 2 hours. But that's about where I'm sitting at, so that's cool. But one of the things I like to do, and I stole this from another podcast hero of mine, his name is Steve Ranella. He does one called the Meat Eater podcast. It's hunting, and it's hunting in a way that it relates to me, man. I've grown up being a hunter and a fisherman, and I like hunting, and I'm not apologetic for being a hunter. I am a meat eater. Well, I'm going on 60 days of being a meat-eating vegan.
Nice.
Yeah, it's cool. I've invented that.
A new thing.
Yeah, I mean, we can make up our own shit today. He does a concluder, and that's why I'm stealing from him. Is that he says, do you have any final conclusions, any concluders you want to share before we turn off the microphone today?
Is that me?
Yep.
You're asking me.
Yeah, I kind of already did a concluder.
You did a really good one. I don't know how much I can add. I guess I can just speak to from the new guy to the new guy. You know, like we said before, find a group of guys you like who have what you want. Do what they do. You know, I'll speak in the cliche. Do what they do, and that means the shit you want to do and the shit you don't want to do. Get all in. I guess that's my biggest change in recovery is taking down my own walls. That, if you want to say living small, I wanted to live small in recovery. I wanted to live big in the madness, but, you know, I artificially put up walls.
No doubt, man.
But I wanted to live small.
Drunk or what?
Yeah, I wanted to drink all the beers. But in recovery, I don't know why, but I guess that's part of our sickness and our disease, is I didn't want all the blessings. And I don't know why. I'll never know why. But I do know that if you take down the walls, the blessings will come. And if you stick with the guys who do what you want and have what you want and do what you want to do and align with, it'll all just work out. Yeah. And
that's juice, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate being here. And I love whoever listens to this. I love you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming in, man. It's always a joy. And I've just loved you from the beginning. I don't know what the deal is. Maybe it's just I have an open heart too, but I know there's some connections sometimes, and it just is with certain people, and that's what's happening with these group of guys or whatever. That connection just gets built really fast. You know what I mean? It's beyond my understanding that you're one of those guys for sure that I just felt that with from the get-go.
Thanks, man.
I don't know how to explain it. I'll close with this because I always have to do. Of course, I kid around. I pay the bills with this stuff, but it ain't. I'm gonna have to start sponsoring myself. I'm gonna say this stuff is sponsored by DTM Woodwork,
right?
Because that is who's going to be financing this in whole before too awful long. Because my normal day job is not doing it anymore, or won't be doing it for long. spiritualunderground.org, just like it sounds, spiritualunderground.org has show notes, has a contact me page where you can email me. That is if you want to just shortcut it, but it's great big. It's Dan at spiritualunderground.org. Kick that. Amazon has 12-step spiritual recovery, the 12 steps for everybody, or those people who currently have a 12-step program and want to take their stuff to a next level. I'm not going to play small there either. This will give you tools that will advance your 12-step because you hopefully smell more also, as I do. Music before the shows here lately have been brought to you by our brothers at the Spiritual Underground in our home group. Jesse here across the table from me, and Darren. That's one of the places where it gets to be funny with the last names. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you all for listening today, and stay tuned. We will be continuing to put out new content on Sunday nights. Peace out.
Do the one about being in the madness first.
I'm going to play a song about being in the madness.
All right. This is by my friend Griffin Maples. Yeah,
Griffin a female?
Griffin? No,
male. I know a Griffin that's a female, and she's popped into my life again suddenly, just obscurely. But
he's been through the recovery with me off and on, both of us, different waves for different things.
Yeah.
But he's probably the only one of my friends who can get this type of thing. So he wrote this. Start up. my veins on a warpath. Saturate head to toe. Hide behind this rough patch of mine. Things that you will never know. But all my friends, they think I'm useless. Well, what do they know? And there's so much more to me, more than I'll ever show. Hazy lights drip down shadows, filter away so slow, drifting away on that China slow boat, with nowhere to go. But all my friends, they think I'm useless. Well, what do they know? There's so much more to see, so much more to know. Beneath the shady tree, you just keep on taking more and more, till that's all of me.
Super cool. I videoed it too. Fucking A, man. That is too fucking cool, dude. Too fucking cool. Man, I'm gonna do it to you.
The icebreaker.
Yeah. That is like, yeah, no doubt.